Well, in continuing to discuss the nature of the fundamental experience that we as humans have, in other words, this thing I'm referring to as basic training, I would like today to begin by describing it from a positive point of view. In other words, so much of what we do in the world of therapy is done in terms of negatives that I wish to start with the positive foundation, which I think we humans start with. Now, my point is that every single human child that is born into the world comes in with its intelligence, with its endowment of sensitivity, of feeling, and all the rest of it. And basically, what we need to have taken care of is the ignorance in which we are born. Now, I'm stressing that word because it's not the same as stupidity or being dumb or any of those other words. In other words, a very clever, very alert, very perceptive, very receptive creature doesn't know anything about the world because it's new here and is essentially looking for instruction how to be itself. And that, to my mind, is the keynote for understanding what the foundation for basic training is. In other words, the caretakers of a human child are responsible, essentially, the way a mother tiger would be, the way a mother chimpanzee would be, the way a mother hippopotamus would be, father hippopotamus, father chimpanzee, father tiger, and so on, for instructing that little creature how to be itself. Now, there are specifics here, therefore, which need to be emphasized. In other words, one of the things that a little human is looking for is to have his or her intelligence ratified, verified, witnessed, supported. Oh, how cleverly you did that. All right. Wow, you're really good at figuring things out. Look at the way you did that. Isn't that great? Words to that effect. Whatever is appropriate. And by the way, it's very important here not to be false or not to be patronizing, essentially, because one of the things that I'm totally convinced most children, if not all, pick up on immediately is that false note. One of the saddest humans I've ever met, I met in a workshop. It was a young woman. She was about 23, very attractive, very intelligent, but she was as scattered and as divided and as self-contradictory as any human being I've ever met. And in the course of the workshop, it was clear, she made clear, that her mother would gushingly appraise, gushingly approve, gushingly admire anything she said or did. So much so that this very clever young woman very quickly picked up that it was false, it was phony. And so the question was, well, why am I being treated so falsely? Why do I have to be lied to? Why do I have to be patronized in this arch way, you see? And so she came into her adulthood as self-divided, as uncertain as anyone I've ever met. I have never forgotten that young lady from that workshop and the experience that got her there. So your physical beauty needs to be witnessed and seen. Your sexuality, as it develops and grows, needs to be witnessed and supported. The energy that you have, the kind of way in which you tackle a problem or go after something that you're eager to have, or any of the rest of it. As your life develops, and there are certain tastes, there are certain ambitions, certain goals that you think you're working out for yourself, to some degree, you want those supported. You want those witnessed. Oh, it's good that you want to be a nuclear physicist. Oh, it's great that you want to be a deep sea diver. Isn't it wonderful that you're interested in being a ballet dancer? Whatever, you see. Given the diversity of possibilities for jobs, for work in modern life, a parent who is a coal miner needs to be ready to support a child that wants to be a ballet dancer. That's a possibility in our day and age. And, you know, the standard reproach to anyone who wants to be a singer or a dancer or an artist, come on, why don't you get a real job? That means, why don't you get a 9-to-5 job where you'll get a certain salary and you won't have to worry about whether or not you're going to be accepted as a dancer or an artist or a painter or whatever, you see. And as a result, you're not supported. So what the child needs is to have these various abilities. Look at how sensitive you are. I talk to you in a way that respects and takes into account the fact that you really feel whether or not you're being listened to, really feel whether or not you're being listened to, and so on. And we are infinitely aware of whether or not the feelings we resonate with, the understanding of ourselves, what we are going through in our own awareness, is being received or not. Now, different individuals are differently aware of that in themselves. You see, some are very, very aware of that inner feeling. On the whole, these are the people that would test as emotional introverts, who are, aware of their own insides, and who check out and develop that internal sense before they act or before they feel. But the world is filled with emotional extroverts who work it out as they speak and as they feel. Just two different ways of doing it, you see. But either way, we as creatures, we as beings, know whether or not the feeling we are filled with, the sense of ourselves that we are acting with, the emotions that are in us are being accepted or not, contradicted or not, validated or not. And we need, above all, to be supported. So very often, the sum total of the kind of experiences we have expresses itself in the way in which we feel, the way in which we feel we are being received emotionally, so that whether or not my intellect is being validated, whether or not my looks are being validated, whether or not my energy is being validated, whether or not my tastes are being supported, whether or not my ambitions and goals in life and so on are being supported, are experienced in an emotional register. And so it ultimately comes down to a kind of sense of, is what I am, is the content of my self safe here or in danger or in jeopardy? In other words, I think it could be summarized as saying that when we come through the process of being raised, nurtured, supported to be who we are, what we look for is a kind of safety. In other words, what I want to come out with is a certain kind of confidence. I like that word very much, because the etymology of the word is confides, with faith. I have faith in myself, you see. And I don't need to be phony. I don't need to be false. I can believe myself, trust my own experience. I have been raised to have belief in myself, confidence in myself. And my belief is that we know immediately whether or not we're speaking with someone or dealing with someone who has that kind of faith in self or not. The more important thing is whether or not I have that in myself, whether or not I am confident of myself. And when I am confident, when I have faith in myself, I know I'm smart. I know I'm emotional. I know I'm sensitive. I know I'm energetic. I know that I have ambitions. I know that I have goals. I know that I have accomplishments that I have put together in my life. And it is perfectly okay for me to know that. Now, that's one of my major observations about whether or not the basic training is effective, is good or not. The way I summarize, I think I've mentioned this before, is how do you feel as an individual when people sing happy birthday to you? Now, it's a trivial, it's a silly example, but I have never seen a situation in which an individual whose birthday it is and who is the center and focus of the party around him or her, and now we're all focusing on that individual and we're all going to praise and sing happy birthday to that individual. And when the act of the focus is being expressed through the singing of the song, that person squirms and squeals and wishes and can't have, hopefully this will be over soon. Now, the point about that is a bodily feeling. That is the emotional expression of the degree to which the faith has been jeopardized. you see. Now, in my next conversation, I'm going to talk about the result of this kind of doubt. In other words, if I have this kind of confidence, I can act in the world in a way which, first of all, rests on the faith in my own ability to do these things, and then is perfectly content and is perfectly safe in recognizing that a similar kind of ability, a similar kind of intelligence, a similar kind of ambition, energy, etc., is over there in you. In other words, there is nothing about another person's pluses, talents, abilities, characteristics that jeopardize mine. They don't, because I'm okay, I'm safe. I am confident of the content of my own being. So nothing about another person threatens or jeopardizes me. In fact, it's kind of exciting to meet another creature in the world where we can celebrate this together. So that's the sense in which I say a positive support, a generally positive support, it maybe doesn't have to be perfect, but as close as possible, will essentially engender that kind of positiveness in the world. It isn't as though anyone who is raised in this way is going to be an egotist, is going to be a narcissist, is going to be any of these people who jeopardize these qualities in another person. I don't need to jeopardize anything which is in you because I have the treasure of myself in me. I am confident. I have been supported in it, and I know that it's there, and I can relax in it. I can simply rest in all that I am and be happy to see you resting in all that you are. You see, it's only when this has been imperiled in some sense, only when I'm nervous, when I'm not confident, you see, that the negative consequences can flow. And I don't think that's recognized sufficiently in this kind of terminology about these problems, which starts out with a negative definition. You see, he's a narcissist, or he's some kind of a terrifying individual, or he's passive aggressive, or any. Those kinds of assessments start out, you see, in a negative realm and do nothing to contribute a positive content, to witnessing a positive content in what is going on. And we need to talk about that as well.